Since the exhaust system we removed from our Chevette donor car was in like-new condition, we're able to modify it and use most of the pieces for our new car. The bracket at the front of the catalytic converter is attached to the catalytic converter mount on the transmission with the original Chevette bolts. At this point, we normally place a call to the Department of Motor Vehicles in the state our car will be registered. Through them, we are able to determine any emission control requirements we need to follow. If our rear exhaust pipe were in poor condition, we would either fabricate a new pipe for the new muffler we'll be using, or, when we had finished, we'd take our car to a muffler shop to have them fabricate the rear pipe for us. We always make certain that the exhaust system is properly suspended from our chassis with rubber straps and that no part comes into contact with the frame or suspension. At the side of the engine, the flange on the exhaust header pipe is secured to the studs from the exhaust manifold with the original nuts. We tighten them with the appropriate wrench. Our MG-TD replica kit came with a new radiator bracket. After we have placed the bracket on the front cross member and centered it an equal distance from each side, we marked the hole locations with a China marker. Using an electric drill with a 3/8 inch bit, we drill the holes through the front and top surfaces. We use 3 5/16 inch diameter by 1.5 inch long bolts. The appropriate socket and ratchet along with an open end or box wrench are used to tighten all bolts. Once the radiator bracket has been installed, we place the lower radiator supports that we removed from our Chevette at each end. After our holes have been drilled, we use 5/16 inch by 1.5 inch bolts with flat washers on both sides. A lock washer and a nut permanently attach them. Now that we've installed the radiator bracket, we can mount our radiator. After carefully placing the radiator into position on the lower supports, we place the upper radiator shroud into position on top of the radiator. 3 holes are marked on the top surface of the bracket using the shroud as a template. The 3 holes are drilled through the bracket. We use 5/16 inch by 1.5 inch long bolts with flat washers, lock washers, and nuts to secure the shroud to the bracket. Occasionally, we find Chevette radiators that require slight modifications. Sometimes the original unit may have been replaced in our donor car. When it has been installed, we connect new hoses along with the automatic transmission cooler lines. While we won't be wiring the car right now, this is the ideal time for us to run the wiring harness as it is secured to the inside of the driver's side main frame rail. Following the illustrations in the instruction manual, we will secure this in position with metal clamps available from the electrical department of our local home center or hardware store. The emergency brake lever is positioned against the side of the fiberglass emergency brake support housing that comes with the replica kit. A China marker is used to mark the mounting hole locations and the hole for the emergency brake rod at the rear of the housing. Our electric drill along with a 3/8 inch bit is used to make the holes. At the rear, we use a rotary rasp available at our hardware store to enlarge the hole for the brake rod. Two 5/16 inch diameter by 1 3/4 inch long bolts with flat washers are used on both sides. Lock washers and nuts are used to secure the brake handle to the support housing. The completed assembly will be attached to our floor liner later. Before we can install the floor liner to our replica, we must do some preliminary work. First, using a China marker or grease pencil, we mark a hole to the left side of the transmission tunnel for the speedometer cable. Moving toward the rear, we mark the holes for the shift lever and the scribed area that will be cut out. A rectangular area for the emergency brake support housing is also marked. Our electric drill along with a 3/8 inch bit is used to make pilot holes for the shift lever and emergency brake support cutouts. Now we use our electric saber saw with the appropriate blade and cut the fiberglass that will be removed. We place the Chevette shift lever assembly into the hole we've cut. Four 5/16 inch by 1 inch bolts are pushed through the mounting holes. Flat washers, lock washers, and nuts are used to attach them. Whenever we bolt anything to fiberglass, we always use a flat washer under any bolt head or nut that comes into contact with the fiberglass surface. This spreads any tension over a larger area. The correct tools are used to tighten the bolts. Our floor liner is ready for installation. Before we can install our new floor liner, we want to prepare the emergency brake cable. Two 1/8 inch wire rope clips are used to fasten the two cable ends together. At this point, we want only to partially tighten the nuts on the clips. The nuts will be permanently tightened when the floor liner has been installed and the cable properly adjusted. The retaining clips that secure each side of the emergency brake cable to its mounting bracket are pried from the cable. The mounting brackets are then reversed and reattached. Two 5/16 inch by 1 1/4 inch long bolts with flat washers, lock washers, and nuts are used to secure each bracket to the frame. The correct tools are used to tighten the bolts. Earlier, we obtained some rubber matting used for stairway tread from our local home center. The matting was cut into appropriate lengths and widths so that we were able to apply it to the surfaces of all frame members that come into contact with the floor liner. This will prevent any squeaks and rattles. 3M's 1300 rubber adhesive in a convenient tube was used to cement the matting to the chassis. Again, we installed this earlier while we were waiting for some paint to dry. At this point, installing the new floor liner is a simple procedure. We push it forward on top of the frame while elevating the rear so that the front lip slides under the brake pedal. The speedometer cable is passed through the hole on the transmission tunnel. A small notch was cut to clear the steering shaft. We push the liner down so it contacts the top of the frame. When necessary, we stand on the liner using our weight to push it all the way down. Earlier, we had assembled the emergency brake lever into its support housing. The completed assembly is now placed in position through the cutout we made in the floor liner. The original Chevette equalizer bracket is attached to the emergency brake cable and then secured to the emergency brake rod. Our electric drill with a 3/16" bit is used to drill holes through the support and floor liner. At the same time, referring to the instruction manual, we drill 20 holes through the floor liner and into the top of the frame. We then use either heavy pop rivets or 1/4" by 3/4" hex washer head screws to secure the floor to the frame. The emergency brake support is secured with either heavy rivets or 5/16" by 1 1/4" bolts with flat washers, lock washers, and nuts on both sides. After locating the accelerator pedal to the right of the steering column, where the floor liner meets the battery box, we drill 2 1/4" holes. The pedal location can be adjusted slightly for driver preference. If further adjustment is desired, we would simply bend the pedal arm to the desired position. A 5/8" hole is drilled through the battery box, and the accelerator cable is passed through and snapped into place. Then, we insert the cable into the notch in the end of the accelerator pedal, using the plastic retaining clip to hold it in place. When necessary, we can tie a small knot in the cable to remove any slack. The bolts are securely tightened, completing installation. Well, our rolling chassis is complete. After we've lowered the rear, we place our floor jack under the front cross member, remove our jack stands, and lower the car slowly to the ground. The original Chevette tires and wheels have been retained and are used during assembly. When our new replica car is completed, we will mount custom wheels and new tires. At this point, our new chassis is ready for our MG body that we are preparing. It will slip right into place. A few electrical connections in the engine compartment would allow us to start the engine. At this point, however, we're going to give the entire chassis a good coat of gloss black enamel paint. We prefer gloss enamel to a flat paint since it's easier to keep clean. We also find it's more durable. We will remember to recheck everything and torque all necessary bolts to original factory specifications before driving the new car. Also, we will have the car thoroughly inspected, the front end aligned, and make any other necessary adjustments to meet all safety and emission requirements and standards before the car is driven. Now, we'll take a moment to step back, look at our achievement, and know it is a job well done.